Today I'm going to be reading If Lost, Please Return to Eraserhead by PepperonyOwl. I'm going to be reading chapters 1 through 3. This fic is about 8,000 words, and it is 3 chapters long. So let's get started. Here's the summary. Izuku's mama is clever, and if his mama says the information he puts in his analysis notebooks is dangerous, then he believes her. It also means that when his mama hasn't been home in 2 days, even though he is only 7, he knows not to contact the police, not as a child without a quirk. Instead, he follows the emergency plan she set out for him, and makes his way home to Eraserhead, Aizawa-san's home. Chapter 1. Izuku's an adorable little green bean, and maybe a little bit scary. The first time he recognizes a hero out of uniform, Izuku is 6 years old. Being an excited elementary school student, and with a correspondingly short attention span, instead of facing the hero and asking it for an autograph, he runs back home as fast as he can so he can tell his mother. Groceries and dinner forgotten in his haste. That is where he learns the most important lesson, a lesson which had him looking at all adults around him with new eyes. These heroes had a whole other life that Izuku knew nothing about, a life that wasn't televised, that had never occurred to him before. Even his teachers had family and a home. They did not, in fact, sleep at school, as he had thought. Miyamoto-san, the grocer they went to most days, had a family and a home and a life. It boggled little Izuku's mind. For nearly a month, he walked around, starry-eyed, looking at all adults around him with wide, wondering eyes, trying to guess what their secret working life was like. His mom thought he was hilarious and kept giggling when Izuku shared his thoughts, sometimes in a rather unwilling mumble fest. By the end of the month, Izuku had cottoned onto the fact that most adults didn't actually try to hide their personal lives or work lives. It was just the heroes. From then on, it became something of a game, narrowing down which heroes were active in Mustafafu, going to different places on weekends, malls, supermarkets, bakeries, coffee shops, trying to figure out who the heroes were in their personal life. His mother had made sure, and he held a rather intense lecture to Izuku on this point after the first hero had told the child off for saying his hero name loudly in public when trying to obtain an autograph. And another phase of hero life little Izuku had never considered suddenly became to the fore: safety. The safety of their family and friends if their identities were revealed to the villains. That hero had to remain incognito to the little spy game Izuku had been playing was dangerous and could hurt his heroes. Little Izuku had been rather appropriately horrified when his mom gently explained just how badly this could go. But that didn't mean he gave up. Izuku didn't know the meaning of the word, not where heroes were concerned. Not when... Oh my god, I'm so sorry, guys. Izuku didn't know the meaning of the word, not where heroes were concerned, because these were his heroes. But it did mean that little Izuku never asked for another autograph from a hero when they were dressed down and living their private life. Although he continued to be baffled by how no one did appear to recognize them. Just because he had his hair down and different clothes and didn't wear glasses didn't make Present Mike any less recognizable. Eraserhead, often found in the cat cafe 3 blocks down from Izuku's school, didn't even bother dressing differently, and yet still wasn't recognized. It boggled his little mind, although some weren't notably harder to pin. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. Eraserhead, often found in the cat cafe 3 blocks down from Izuku's school, didn't even bother dressing differently, and yet still wasn't recognized. It boggled his little mind, although some were notably harder to pin down than others. It wasn't truly difficult for most of them, and it meant little Izuku learned new little details about his heroes most days. Once he even overheard Hisashi Yamada, President Mike's real person name, tell Shota Aizawa, his husband and the person behind pro hero Eraserhead to please, please, please let me plan an awesome birthday party on Saturday. Given Aizawa-san's grumbles and objections, Izuku had noted not only the man's birthday, but that he was also likely an introvert, as his mom had told him about when he asked her. Izuku still giggled when he thought about how different the two husbands were from each other. He spent his evenings after afternoons wandering the city for new information on his heroes, diligently adding all that new information to his hero analytics books, none of which he was allowed to take out with him anymore. As his mom had explained to him the first time she got sight of the heroes' real names, families, birthdays, and home addresses in the books. It also meant, however, that Izuku was one of the only little children in all of Masutafu, or at least one of a very, very small number, who had a special emergency procedure on whom to contact. His mom had spent hours on various forums for the quirkless and parents to figure out which heroes were trustworthy. The list ended up being depressingly small, but the closest within reach of little Izuku's home and school were Aizawa-san's and Yamada-san's home. Second in line was Nezu and Yue if he needed something further away. Mom had made sure he had an emergency travel card on him, always. And third in line was Sir Night-Eye, Best Genus, and Gang Orker were fourth and fifth. But really, his mom made sure he knew her preference would be Eraserhead. Nezu or Night-Eye might be interested in Izuku for his analytics and not realize he was a small child. Izuku pouted. Best Genus and Gang Orker had been subject to discrimination or were vocally against discrimination, as was Pressing Mike. But Eraserhead patrolled at night. He had found more than one Crooker's child after jumping, and he has always made sure the investigation and prosecution of those responsible was carried out. He didn't stop at finding them. That wasn't enough. He also tried to talk them off the ledge to help them find families, support, jobs, whatever they needed to find their feet again. Eraserhead was safe, was the conscious across all forums. So he was Izuku's first emergency contact when his mama didn't come home for 2 days. The police could be contacted by Eraserhead, his mother had said, but not by Izuku. Sniffling, Izuku grabbed the little bag his mother had always made sure he had ready to go, with wrapped cereal bars and a water bottle, as well as a travel toothbrush, toothpaste, and change of clothes, including pajamas. The last thing to add was his hero books. His mama made him promise that they could only leave the house when she okayed it, or if in any emergency he needed to look for the heroes. It was Thursday afternoon now. Mama hadn't been home since she dropped him off at school on Tuesday morning. It also meant that according to the patrol schedule, Izuku had managed to figure out Eraserhead would not leave for patrol for another 4.5 hours, plenty of time to make his way to the man's house. Brave face, Izuku reminded himself, wiping away the tears. Mama had told him to always be a step behind an adult, so people would assume he was with them. It would make him less of a target if there were adults with him. He had done it often when going around town for more hero news, but this time was different. Izuku had never been more acutely aware of the heavy books in his backpack as he locked the door behind him, nervously looking around as he scurried down the stairs as fast as he could. He stumbled at the end, falling down 3 steps and headbutting the railing, but righted himself quickly, ducking his head down after nervously looking around to see if anyone was watching. He didn't know if his mama had disappeared because Izuku had important information. Creepy, stalkerish information, according to Bakugo, but still important. Because apparently not everyone could read faces and find patterns like he could. But that's okay, his mama had said. And Eraserhead would help. He always helped, Mama had said so. It took a nerve-wracking 1.5 hours to make his way to their home, and 3 different buses. He jumped one the wrong ones when a person nearby had made him nervous, just to divert suspicion and make sure they couldn't follow him, like a spy. And 1 train trip and a lot of walking. The distance wasn't that far, but he was nervous and took a detours because he didn't want to leave Ville and still approach Hero's home. But Mama had said it was okay. Looking around himself, the sky nearly fully black already, and the surroundings seemed 10 times as scary as he knocked on the door. Finally, that half-hour delivery time was really... The man cut himself off, eyes dropping and taking in Izuku, still in his school uniform, backpack on his shoulder. Well, you're not here to deliver food, unless they've started hiring kindergarten. Shota Aizawa, Izuku recognizes even in the dim lighting, and his chest deflates like a balloon. Breathing easier for the first time in 2 days. He's safe now. He's safe. I'm in primary school, he objects, because that needed to be clarified right now. The man looks amused, but still concerned, scanning around them. Sure you are. So why are you here, kiddo? Izuku pouts. The man clearly doesn't believe him, and it's not important. Shouldn't be. But it feels important. Eraserhead is even better than All Might for the quirkless, for the deprived, poor neighborhoods like one Izuku lives close to. And that makes him the number one hero of the Midoriya household. He had wanted his hero to acknowledge how grown-up Izuku is. But that can come later. Izuku heaves his backpack down and drops it on the entrance just past the door and beside Aizawa-san's feet, who watches him and his backpack with renewed caution. My name is Midoriya Izuku. My mama's name is Midoriya Inka, and my mama said if she isn't home or I'm in danger, I can come to you and you would look after me, Izuku declares, bright-eyed. Yamada-san is already peering over Aizawa-san's shoulder at him, eyebrows raised before smiling widely and quickly covering Izuku's ears. But he can still hear them talking clearly enough, and just watches, amused as the adults hiss at each other. What the show? I thought it was your first. Hold on. You would have been, what, 15? We can still press charges, you know. Nothing like that ever happened, Aizawa-san hisses back, rolling his eyes. And he's not mine, Zashi. I don't know why his mother sent him here. Are you sure? Exasperated, Aizawa-san lifts his hands helplessly in the air. He said he's in primary school. I would have been 15 at the oldest, and I've not slept with a woman, ever. You would have been 13 and a half when Mama got pregnant. Although I didn't know if I was born early or late, and Aizawa-san's not my dad, Yamada-san. My mama said my dad's in America. Shota raises an eyebrow and nails down at face height, easily tucking away. Yamada-san's hands from Izuku's ears. But you don't think he is? Izuku shakes his head quickly. Nuh-uh. I've seen Dad. He has a new family. Kiko is his new wife's name, and he has two new children through her from the first marriage and a new baby on the way. But Kiko hasn't told Dad about that yet. Yamada-san and Aizawa-san exchange glances. And how do you know about that then? Oh, I've seen him on my walks around town. Mama has too, but we pretend we don't. It's like a game. That's when Mama explained to me how babies are made. And that's why I don't know. That's why I know you can't be my dad. And we tell people he's in America. More glances. All right. What's in your backpack there, kiddo? Is that yours? Do you know everything that's inside that, or did you just let anyone add anything to that bag at any time? This time, Izuku really is amused by the adults. That's my bag. It's for emergencies, he pronounces carefully. Mama put in cereal boxes, but I filled my own water, and I put my own clothes in, and we change everything in the bag every 6 months. So I have appropriate clothing for the season. Got my toothbrush too. It's an All Might handle, Izuku announces proudly. Well done, little listener, Yamada says warmly, and Izuku lights up. These heroes really are so nice. And I brought my books because Mama said they are dangerous, so I made sure no one else could touch it. Another quick glance. Could I have a look at these books? Izuku nods quickly, delighted. He hasn't been able to share these in over a year without anyone, but Mama, and she always looks so pale when she goes through them. She doesn't like sharing anymore. But this is about them. Look here. This is you, Izuku says, quickly dragging his book about Eraserhead out. Present Mike is in an earlier book before he'd found out about Eraserhead or their marriage. So he hands Present Mike a different book, open to his own page. Aizawa's eyebrows rise and then furrow, and then he doesn't even bother flipping the page before dragging Izuku in. Yeah, okay, problem child. You've got my attention now. Aizawa-san scans the outdoors before closing and locking the door behind them. Izuku doesn't hesitate to take his shoes off. The The only slippers they have are adult size, and Izuku didn't think to pack a stone, so he leaves them off. Where did you get all this information from, sweetheart? Yamada-san asks, voice concerned as Aizawa-san checks windows and blinds, locking and securing their house carefully. Oh, just going through town like always. I'm not sure I understand, little listener. Can you tell me a bit more? Does someone tell you this, or is this your quirk? Izuku shakes his head, and although his eyes are ostensibly fixed on the couch, he watches Yamada-san carefully out of the corner of his eyes. He knows Eraserhead-san is safe, but Present Mike is still uncertain. He's never treated them badly, but that doesn't mean anything, necessarily, especially not now they're in private lives and out of public view. Eraserhead-san is the same to all. He doesn't put on a pretense for the media, but Present Mike-san does, and that makes him even more uncertain. But Izuku has learned how to read people, adults mostly, since his diagnosis, so he watches carefully as he says casually, "Oh no, I don't have a quirk." Yamada-san barely blinks. He just nods and then waves the book very gently. So does someone tell you this information? What you do on your walks around town? His face doesn't change. There isn't the disgust, the anger tightening the skin around his eyes, the grimace, the downward twitch in his mouth. Safe. Aizawa-san shows his husband well. Aizawa-san rejoins them as Izuku clambers onto the couch. He's tired, and his shirt is all sweaty from the stress and carrying a heavy bag for so long. But he needs his mama, so he uses his fist to wipe over his eyes, hides his yawn, and then looks at the two men. I just walk around. I've seen Aizawa-san in the cat cafe with his scarf and everything, and you both go shopping at Niroba-san's corner store on occasion, and I've seen you in the grocery store and walking around, and you keep saying listener, and just because you have your hair and eyes different doesn't mean it makes you any less present, Mike. So I hear heroes when they talk. You also walked out of the grocery store and ordered food over the phone and gave your address, so that's how I got that. But people never notice kids, so I can listen and get a lot more data for my analysis. Did you like it? Oh, Kachan always said it's creepy and stalkerish, but I think it's been super helpful in finding you, hasn't it? And you can now find Mama, can't you? My patrol schedule, Aizawa-san hisses to Yamada-san, finally having flicked through more pages on the information of himself. Yamada-san's eyes twitches, but his kind, present Mike hero smile remains firmly in place. What can you tell us about your mama, then? So Izuku rattles off about everything he knows. Her height, weight, hair color, quirk, details about it. Suppositions and that they've never tried but may come in handy against a villain, which have Yamada-san paling rapidly, even though Izuku doesn't understand. Mama can attract small things. Why when skill cells, blood, or fingernails work? He then tells them her schedule, usual routes, finance, and all the details about his father and his new family, his mother's family, and anything else that he could recall. This is the probably most thoroughly missing persons report in all of history show, Yamada-san whispers to his husband, and Izuku looks at them bemused. Of course, I have to tell you everything so you can find Mama. He proceeds to tell them of possible stops she might have made, her favorite cafe, the shop which sells her favorite ice cream, no birthdays near that could account for a larger diversion. The traffic patterns on her normal work route on Tuesday specifically, which he'd looked up 2 days ago when she was over 3 hours late and had not answered her phone yet. Nezu will want to meet him, Shota says in response, closing the book gently and handing it back to Izuku. Your mother did the right thing in having these kept secret, he says firmly. And Izuku holds the book to his chest and nods quickly. Mama is the cleverest. He doesn't know why they're so surprised. Aizawa-san's lips twitch, and Izuku realizes he said the last bit out loud and blushes slightly. All right, how about you have a little nap while we get dinner sorted, and we'll get our detective friend on the phone and have him drop by for a friendly interview and see where we go from there. And don't worry, Aizawa jumps in, head ducked down to make eye contact with Izuku, dark eyes warm and concerned as they look at him. We will both look for your mother, all right, problem child? Izuku lights up when Aizawa pats him carefully on the head. He clearly has no idea how to handle children other than to treat them like a pet. But it's not like Izuku minds. He's seen the man do this with the cats in the cafe. It's not the first time he wished that Hiro would cuddle with him like he does with the cats. Aizawa is just so nice and warm, concerned and comforting. Thank you, he tells him, jumping forward to wrap his arms around the Midoriya family hero and snuggling into the warm arms, wrapping carefully around him. Safe, he thinks. There's no doubt in little Izuku's mind that Eraserhead will solve it all. He will find his mama, will keep Izuku and his books safe, and will look after him. He is the best hero after all. Chapter 2. Trying to do better than we were taught. The summary. Being a pro hero does not automatically qualify you as a parent, but trying does. Shota doesn't know how long it takes for the kid to fall asleep, but between one slow, long tired blink and the next, the kid is gone. He's lying on his back on the couch, one hand still tirelessly stroking over the tiny back of the child with his head tucked neatly into Shota's neck. Moist, wet breath fanning over his neck as the problem child succumbed to sleep. Izuku's tiny hands is curled tightly around both his scarf and shirt, refusing to let go. Anytime Shota makes a move to stop stroking the kid like he pets his cats, the child grumbles sleepily, and he resumes his ministrations. Finally, his eyes find Hizashi's, small smile still curling his lips upwards. His blonde partner is cooing silently, a rare feat, and takes pictures, ensuring his smile drops and is replaced with a scowl. Zashi, he hisses quietly, piling his scarf up higher around the little child's head to stop him from hearing, hopefully, and waking up from the noise. You can't take pictures of the kid. Show, his wife whines, easily rotating his phone and tapping on the icon for the gallery to show him the photos already taken. But look, he's so adorable. Have you ever seen anything that cute in your life? Shota can see that, but he can also see how it would look to others, which is the more important and incriminating aspect in the case. Tell me, Zashi, if you were called on a case where a child was found with two unrelated men he didn't know before that day, and then they had pictures of him on their phone, however harmless, and he was at their home and had no idea where his mother was, how would that look to you? Hizashi opened his mouth to protest, winced, and then closed it again. Precisely, Shota says with quiet emphasis, ignoring his husband's pout. On his mom's phone, that's adorable on ours. It's a misdemeanor at best. So delete those photos right now. We still haven't figured out what's going on with the family or the mother, and until official parties such as her or Sukauchi have given their sign-off on the kid staying with us under our foster license, you're going to have to restrain yourself. But the green bean is so adorable, his husband protests quietly, already working on deleting the photos despite his words. I want to show off to Tensei that our kid is cuter than his little brother. His eyebrows rise in surprise as he glances at his husband again, eyes torn away from the kid, shifting and softly snuffling against his neck as he curls further into him. He can feel his eyes soften, his lips curling into an involuntary grin as he strokes gently through the child's bouncy curls, trying to detangle his hair. Our kid, he asked Hizashi's nonetheless, voice soft. It baffles Shota how his partner could have become that attached to a child he's barely known for half an hour. Truly astounding how quickly the blonde, overly loud hero gets attached to people. So irrational, Shota thinks to himself, amused at how emotional his partner is, ignoring the way his own eyes are soft or the rare warm smile on his lips are curved into as he gazes down at the small boy curled into him. Hisashi hums, affirming. Kid sounds like he could use few more adults in his corner. He's clever, kind, considerate, and the most adorable green bean. Shota hesitates for only a moment, giving the kid draped half across him a considering glance before glancing back at Hisashi, lips curled into a smirk, conceding quietly. Little Tenya wouldn't stand a chance. His husband is quick to muffle his surprised laughter with his hands, but his eyes are still wide as he gazes at him, shoulders shaking. Shota's smirk only widens in response, delighted when Hisashi's cheek flushed at the sight. A moment later, flush receding, Hisashi sinks down to the ground beside the couch Shota and Izuku are occupying, one hand slowly, ever so gently, stroking over the small child's back. You know, Hisashi starts, voice quiet and tone contemplative. I don't think our food delivery is going to come any more tonight. Shota huffs slightly, earning another sleepy grumble from the child and hums in agreement. I also don't think you're meant to feed children fast food. You'll need to cook something. Hisashi raises an eyebrow. Excuse you? I need to cook something? And what about you? Shota offers a slow smirk. Well, I don't think I'll be allowed to move anytime soon. He strikes over the small boy's back as if to further the comparison. Izuku lets out a quiet, pleased hum which has Hisashi sniggering all over again. I'm telling you, there's no such thing. You are allowed to move even when a cat, or child in this case, has decided to fall asleep on top of you. In direct contradiction in his own words, the blonde is already up, putting on his shoes and searching for his wallet and keys. As proof for his own claims, Shota wriggles slightly, and very slightly, barely an inch to the side, and gets more grumbled complaints which make both husbands snicker. To Shota's amusement, that causes the boy to move his tiny left hand sluggishly up, covering his mouth and shushing him. Hisashi is bent over, shaking with laughter, hand over his mouth. Shota, amused, rolls his eyes and exhales quietly. The child's hand dropping back to wrap around his scarf. His own sideways glance lands on the books on their table and the still full backpack resting beside the couch, and his smile drops quickly. Be careful, he reminds his husband with quiet emphasis, and is gratified to watch him take it seriously, fastening the directional speakers around his neck, easily hidden behind a colorful scarf so as not to flaunt his civilian identity. You too, Hisashi returns just as serious, and Shota nods, one end of his capture weapon already securely wrapped around his wrist, and gives Tsukauchi a call. Not really his department, though, is it? Hisashi asks, looking surprised at Shota's suggestion. The sleep-deprived hero sighs. Quirkless, he reminds his husband, as if it answers everything, and they both know it does. For all that, the police is meant to be impartial, to not be discriminatory. There are far too many people in there with their own set view of their world and life, and they have to been given the power and force to back it up. It makes life difficult sometimes, but nearly always so for the quirkless. Too few are in their corner or even aware of the children like Izuku existing, having relegated to the elderly, the past, history, an aberration of humanity quickly dying out. Hisashi winces, the same thoughts likely flittering through. They know a few good officers and detectives, but none with enough to pull in to investigate, Tsukauchi being the one exception. I'll call him, Hisashi promises easily. I'll grab some things for breakfast and snacks as well. Shota nods and allows himself to fall into a semi-relaxed pose, one of his hands curled loosely around Izuku's waist, close to the center of the mass, easy enough to grab and spin out of the way or behind Shota. Should someone come to attack? Eyes half-lidded, Shota remains quiet, breathing even, good enough to fool even the most observant into dropping their guard, thinking him asleep. Not that he would, not with such a high possibility of danger in such a vulnerable and defenseless potential victim under his protection, but it plays well into the permanently sleep-deprived, possible homeless vibe Shota seems to give off. Hisashi returns, safe and sound, 43 minutes later, and for the first time since he left, he feels attention leave and relaxes back into their couch. Anything? Hisashi shakes his head. Hisashi, all clear, no worries. Tsukauchi authorized the interim foster and is on the case of Mrs. Midoriya. Pretty impressed with our junior detective, too. Wants to meet him, too. But said it could wait until tomorrow with what he's got for now. Apparently, there's a flag on her file, so you'll see what that's about first, we'll probably get a call back in a few hours after he's phoned around enough to get clearance on whatever that is about. Thanks, Zashi, Shota says softly, genuinely grateful for his partner jumping in and managing their lazy night turned chaotic with such ease. Shota's been on stakeout, infiltration, and villain takedown for a newly formed drug gang operation on the high schools in the area for the last 36 hours straight and feels ready to collapse. In the nights just before Eraserhead was in action for nearly 2 days without a break had not been very restful either. Hisashi had joined a task force for a villain apprehension 5 days earlier, but he was meant to be mere backup on. As a relatively junior hero on standby on this called in, the decision on calling in Present Mike was delayed twice, first by the people monitoring, and then delayed further when it went up the chain before he finally got the go-ahead. Bureaucracy and indecision led to the death of 6 civilians, 1 dead pro and 1 injured so severely that they would likely be retiring after only a short 8-year career in the field. It led to a lot of late nights and nightmares, not a great lead up to a long period of being awake, but also not something Shota is unfamiliar with, so he powers through. They've both got a few days off anyway. Luckily, due to the aforementioned disastrous operation, Hisashi's been given a week off and Shota's got a 3-day break coinciding neatly with the end of Hisashi's time off. Also, ideal for allowing them to watch over little Izuku while they sort out what happened to his mother. Still, they're both exhausted, and Shota sometimes struggled to reconcile just how he ended up with Hisashi when the man is so inherently selfless and caring, stretching himself across the jury jobs and now going out grocery shopping and cooking from scratch in spite of his own exhaustion and tiredness. Love you, he tells his quietly humming husband as he unpacks, earning him a smile as bright as the sun from his loud blonde, feeling his chest tightened at the sight and a too soft, too gooey smile on his lips as he ducks his head to the side to hide the rising blush on his face. I'm gonna pause here for like 2 seconds because I'm ordering Subway. I'm literally so sorry. What do you guys like for Subway? Comment down below. I'm getting turkey, lettuce, olives, and mayo. Cheese. I'm so sorry about that. Alright, let's continue. Hisashi, on the other hand, is not quite so easily distracted. Within minutes, the meat is frying and vegetables are being prepped for what Shota presumes will be curry. When the small child in Shota's arms sniffs once, then twice, deeper, before Izuku lifts his head slowly, nose still twitching as the smell of fried meat slowly starts permeating their apartment. Rubbing his right hand tightly over his eyes, blinking slowly awake, still surprisingly unaware of his surroundings, the green-haired little boy pushes himself upright with a hand on Shota's diaphragm. He's lucky the boy is as tiny as he is. Shota as fit as he is and prepared enough to not allow the push placed in just the right spot to force all the air out of him. Another slow blink, fist still rubbing at the corner of the child's green eyes, yawning widely, clearly still half asleep, finally wiping the drool off of his chin before his hand finally land on Shota, the man he's still lying on top of. "Morning, Mr. Eraserhead, sir," the child says, another jaw-cracking yawn on his lips, blinking slowly before the boy goes rigid, eyes wide, and slowly turns to him. Shota gives him his best smile, but unfortunately it probably looks rather frightening, judging by the rapidly paling face of the child. "Oh no," Izuku breathes out, eyes wide. "Oh no, 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 Mr. Eraserhead, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, really." The boy continues to reassure frantically, using his shirt to wipe out the wet spot on Shota's neck and shirt, only serving to spread the wetness. Unfortunately, he notes with a grimace. At least the frantic actions of Izuku don't seem to be based on expecting retaliation, forcing or otherwise, but rather on embarrassment, much to Shota's release. He stops the kid mid-motion. He'd rather not have that slather rubbed more over him. He deals enough with bodily fluids in his work as a hero, but somehow this slow, long-term drool over him is different. But he knows enough about kids and understands enough of the nervous disposition of this kid in particular to not say any of these thoughts or feelings out loud. "Hey, kid. Izuku, it's all right. No harm done. You needed the rest, and so did I. Look, my husband's working on dinner, and our friend and the police is already working on your case while we look into it. You'll stay with us, if that's all right with you." "Really?" Wide-eyed, sparkles in his eyes, the little boy leaned forward, arms flailing. "I get to stay with superheroes? I really get to live with you, Eraserhead? But you're like the most amazing superhero ever!" Cheeks flushed from excitement. Half bouncing, luckily now sat beside Shota, rather than still on top of him. Izuku stares at him, astounded, and he can feel his ears and the back of his neck burn, the flush rapidly climbing to his cheeks. Hisashi used to admiration and hero worship, adores it in fact, but Shota prefers the shadows, prefers belligerent rudeness of saved victims over gushing empty praises. But he doesn't know what to do when faced with an overly excited, exuberant child who so clearly adores his hero persona, or, well, him. Because for all that, the limelighters put on a persona for their fans and the press, Shota is content to be nothing but unapologetically, openly himself, working as a hero or not. His blush deepens. He'd never sought out the admiration and now flounders in the face of it. There's nothing admirable about him. He doesn't seek out the crowds, doesn't fight showy villains during daytime, but well, he's skimmed at least what the book said, and it was accurate. This admiration, this faith and wonder, is not something he can ignore as the blind hero worship of victims rescued in the nick of time, or a child who doesn't know what he's talking about. This kid probably knows Shota's skills and work better than anyone but Nezu, and maybe Hisashi, Nemuri, or Tensei, although they are debatable as they rarely work together. Point is, the admiration is based on Shota, based on who he is, or what he actually does. What is he meant to do with that? "Thank you," he finally ends up saying. It doesn't feel like enough, even as he pats the child's head like he would with a cat, carefully stroking the green curls. "Needs a shower," he nods quietly. "We would love to have you stay with us, Izuku, while we figure out where your mother is, if that's all right with you." "Yeah!" Izuku chirps excitedly, fist waving in the air, echoing only a moment later by Hisashi in his signature yell, although much quieter, given that they're at home and there's only an audience of one. "High five, little listener," Hisashi easily earns an excited hand clap from the kid when he jumps over from the kitchen. Shota takes the opportunity to slip away and clean himself up, and force his blush down, while the child is otherwise occupied with Hisashi, showing him and narrating his cooking as he does it, handing off easy tasks to the child to participate in. Naturally, dinner comes with another fray when the bright-eyed child loses a tooth. Oh, Izuku says quietly, pulling a tooth out of his mouth like it's normal and holding it up to their panicked faces. Shit! It's Hisashi whisper shouts, face white, and Shota can gather enough of his wits together to reprimand him for swearing, staring just as pale at the slightly bloody tooth proudly held up by the child. We broke him, Hisashi exclaimed, scrambling out of his seat and around the table, dropping to his knees in front of the child with trembling hands. Hovering, but unsure if it's safe to touch Izuku. Oh no, what if he needs dentures? Show! By this point in the relationship, activating his quirk to erase his partners is automatic, and his blonde husband continues without even taking notice. His mama will kill us. God, I would kill us. How did we break him? I thought he's a 6-year-old. I thought a 6-year-old could eat solid foods. 7, Izuku pipes up, a frown forming on his face, looking frustrated for the first time ever since Hisashi turned the chair towards him and is hovering in front of him, hands flapping, pale face. Don't be daft, Shota says, tone biting. But knows only his face is just as pale. Of course they can eat solid food. He's not a baby. Exactly, Hisashi jumps in, hand gently covering Izuku's mouth like he's afraid the next time the child opens it, the rest of them will just come pouring out. So why is he losing teeth? I don't remember this happening. Do you remember this happening? Why is this happening? Did you eat the plate? Before his husband can spiral further, Shota reaches across it and lays a calming hand on his shoulder, only to end up with the back of Hisashi's hand slapping him across the face. He blinks in surprise. Pause his motion. Did you just lick me? Did you just lick me? Izuku pales, but he sets his shoulders, face set in an almost little expression of determination. I had to. You wouldn't listen to me. The child's voice wobbles slightly at the end, giving away how upset he's actually feeling. But Shota is still impressed by the guts that the child has, especially given his overgrown sense of hero worship. He's less than impressed with his husband's for reacting by yanking his hand away rapidly and backhanding Shota, but it was soft enough it doesn't even redden his skin. Still, he glares at Hisashi before patting Izuku gently on his back. Alright, sorry about that, Izuku. You'll have to be patient with us, Shota explains carefully, bending down so he can maintain eye contact. We don't have children, so this is all new to us. We will do our very best to take really good care of you. But if we miss something or do something wrong, please don't hesitate to speak up, and we will do our best to listen to you. This is added with another glare to Hisashi, who nods quickly. Yes, sorry, little listener. I panicked, but we're listening now if you're still willing to share. It's my top tooth, the child says with a slight hissing, lisping sound to his words, thanks to the new gap between his teeth. So we have to throw it down into the ground, he explained excitedly before faltering when taking in the bemused looks he's garnered from pro heroes kneeling beside him, because it means the new tooth will grow in straight, you know? He actually adorably sounds questioning in the end when he looks at them. And this losing teeth thing is normal, Hisashi asks hesitantly, and Izuku nods firmly. Shota, much as he likes the child, isn't quite so ready to trust the world of a near toddler and quickly double checks on his phone while Izuku's attention is firmly on his loud blonde as he explains the tradition. Haven't you ever done this as a child? He finally asks, and Shota only manages to disappear his phone down his sleeve before the green-haired boy can take notice. Did your mama and Pepper never do that to you? Do that with you? Hisashi's and Shota's eyes meet, thinking of foster homes, orders to be quiet, to be obedient, to keep their mouths shut and heads down. Thinks of slaps and accusations of villainy, of harsh grabbed limbs, of dark rooms and locked doors, of humming to themselves just to hear something, to remember they exist, and neither of them have any intention of ever telling Izuku any of that. They never met. Not before Yue. But prior to Hisashi's adoption, they'd had for two similar a life still shaped part of who they were now. And Izuku, for all that he's aware of and knows far more than the average child his age, is still innocent in so many other respects. Neither of them have particularly good memories of those days, and the only teeth Shota remembers losing is when one of his foster parents hit him. The childhood has blurred together in a malaise of pain, loneliness, and fear, and the concrete instances Shota remembers are the ones he'd rather forget. So no, neither him nor Hisashi have any particular memories of losing teeth, not attached to violence, but as a part of normality. Hisashi stands easily, stretching out a hand to Izuku. Well, you'll just have to show it how it's done, won't you? Izuku brightens up at that, easily hopping to his feet, half-eaten food easily forgotten in this segment as he scrambles for his shoes. Shota ducks his head down to hide his smile from Izuku when he watches the child stick his tongue out as he ties his shoes. Adorable. Still, cautious as ever, Shota steps out first, scanning the surroundings while Hisashi distracts Izuku before gently tapping his husband's wrist twice to give him the all clear. Izuku's ushered out in no time, and excited that he knows something that the adults and pro heroes don't. Shows and explains how a top tooth has to be thrown straight down into the ground so the next one will grow in straight. Hisashi, over the enthusiastic one between them, coos and nods, bouncing alongside excitedly with the child. Shota allows them both a happy high five when the tooth is on the ground, and a hair ruffle for the kid, before they're all back in and finally eating their now much colder food. By the time the kid's in bed, teeth brushed, all tucked in, bedtime story told, a somewhat sinister story of a hero fight Shota had been involved in during his last year at UA, during his internship. Kish pressured to his forehead and light turned off. Shota is exhausted. I don't know how Mama Doria does this every day, Hisashi says quietly, leaning against him. Shota eyes the towering stack of dishes, of food still to be tucked away, and plates and utensils to be cleaned, and agrees with a slightly despairing sigh before pausing. Mama Doria. Yeah, get it? Mama Doria and Mama all put together because she seems like one of the good ones by all accounts, so Mama Doria. Shota stares at him. Your naming privileges are officially revoked, he tells his husband a moment later. What? Hisashi squawks, all outrage offense. You're the only one who wants to name one of our cats. You're the one who wanted to name one of our cats Espresso, and he is dark brown and has a lighter brown tint on his ears. How is that not Espresso? Besides, he answers to it. Only because you keep calling him that, Hisashi protests. Well, Shota shrugs, smug smirk pulling out the corners of his mouth. I call him that because that's who he is. Hisashi's bony elbow hits him in the waist, and dark-haired pro hero finds himself gasping before they both descend into chuckles. Thanks for cooking, Zashi, Shota offers, leaning back against his partner. Anytime, Sho. Leave the dishes to me. It's only fair. Hisashi eyes him from the side, and Shota does his best to seem wide awake. But that's difficult, even when he's not going on 40 hours without sleep. Yeah, no, I think we all need some sleep. Shota sighs longingly. He loves going to sleep. Loves the oblivion of sleep, the lack of stress, of pressure, of being needed. Loves falling asleep to his husband humming quietly, to warm arms wrapped around each other, to soft kisses and touches before sleep overwhelms them. Loves the endless perfect warmth, the comfort and safety, and hates knowing that's not going to be in his near future. We have to talk about Tsukauchi, about what he's found out so far, Shota points out. And we need to have a closer look at these books, he adds, lifting one of the hero analysis books into view. I only had time to skim over mine, and didn't even get through it all. But so far, it's scarily accurate. I mean, some wrong suppositions and mistakes, but overall, a frightening large amount of raw, untapped talent in that little child. Nezu will kill us if we don't facilitate an introduction within the space of a week at the latest. Hisashi gives him a wary grin. Commiserating slightly over their old, rather eccentric teacher turned headmaster. But first we need to do an actual threat assessment of these books and that child, and then talk to Tsukuuchi and figure out if someone is after the child and whether his mother is still alive. He sighs heavily, rubbing tightly over his eyes, trying to force his body to be more awake and coherent by sheer force of will. From what Izuku said so far, despite the statistics for quirkless, I think abandonment is highly unlikely, which leaves outside interference or death. I don't much care for either option, Shota admits grimly, and Hisashi grimaces but nods. Please ignore the background noise, sorry. Alright, let's get tucked in and maybe we'll have some good news by the time Izuku is awake in the morning, Hisashi says with a quiet cheer. Shota winces. And if he stays with us for longer, we'll need to investigate about what's age appropriate. I don't know. I know I took showers by myself at that age, but should he be under supervision in case he slips or drowns? Does he need help still? Because I don't think that kid had a shower in the last 2 days since his mother's not been home. What about shower gel and shampoo? Can he use ours or do kids need special ones? What about school and homework? Can he walk himself? Should he? He's clearly running all around town analyzing people, heroes and villains. Is that safe? What should he be eating? How often? Fuck Hisashi, we got our foster license for kids like us. For victims, but I don't have a fucking clue on what to do with a child. Do you? No. Hisashi breathes out, looking just as panicked and horrified as he feels. Shit, his husband curses with feeling. How can they just hand these foster licenses out like candy to broke heroes? They should have at least given us a course like Childcare 101 before giving us a license. But as pro heroes, it's like they assumed our character would be up to snuff without any references or house checks or whatever. And they only asked us about discipline and whether we'd clothe and feed the child. Why wasn't there a manual, a reference book, something to give you a guideline, or even better, test you on whether you're qualified to deal with a child victim of any kind? Eyes wide, Hisashi turns to Shota. Shit, Sho, how the hell did we get this foster license? Why did they give them to us? Why did we think we were qualified for this? Most of the relationship is very balanced. Hisashi panics or is angry or sad, and Shota helps rationalize the emotions. Helps plan how to handle and deal with the situation. Hisashi's method is a more empathic one. Commiserating, hugging, and indulging in empathic one. Commiserating, hugging, indulging in the emotion before helping Shota plan ahead. It's rare when they feed into each other's emotions and spiral further down each other together. Exhaling sharply, trying to get a grip on his own panic, Shota admits, I don't know, but that kid needs us. Now, like always. Job first. There's a metaphorical, impossible, very real villain to deal with. And we can deal with our feelings when the job's done. Compartmentalization is not great, not long term, but it serves to ensure of them ever enter a battlefield or angry or distracted. Tunnel vision, ignore anything ancillary or all worries about radio shows. Later analysis of the fight or anything that doesn't need to be handled immediately. Hisashi straightens up, rubbing over his face, and nods back just as firmly. This is at least something they're familiar with. I'll call in and see if Tsukuuchi has an update. You'll handle the books. Shota nods back just as curtly, both in a more professional mindset as they step away from each other to handle whatever further revelation this night will bring. But the ease of practice. Shota is the one who steps away to brew them both coffee for what will undoubtedly be another long night. Okay. So, that's all that there is for now. So, they are working on the next chapter. So that's the end for now. I will see you guys soon once the chapter goes up, or I read another book. Sorry, fan fiction. And I'm sorry for all the interruptions. And that will be all. Thank you all for listening. Have a good day.